because she has to move on to another workshop. So she will answer her questions when she's done her talk, and then she'll leave us. But the rest of them, the questions will be at the end of the seminar. And you can just write them in chat box, or if you think of something on the spot, if you can put your hand up, hopefully we'll see you. If not, if you press one of the reactions, the little yellow hand is easier for us to see and to spot who's waving. Otherwise, you can just go into the chat box and type your question in. If we don't have time to answer all of them, we will pick them up off the recording and we will direct it to the correct person, and you will have an answer when that person gets back to you. Hopefully that's all right with everybody. We'll have a 10-minute comfort break at 10:45, but this year you'll have to make your own coffee, I'm afraid. So the question and answer session will take place at 11:40, just at the end, before Tim closes us down. So hopefully you'll have enough time to think of something. So now I'm going to ask John to hand over to Gabrielle to open a 2020 conference. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Right, well, welcome everybody, and thank you for giving up your Saturday morning and attending. I do believe this is our 9th international conference, and normally, as usual, we would be at Tally Ho today, but because of the circumstances of the pandemic, we're having it for the first time ever online. So I'd like to thank Pauline and John for sorting all this out and organising it. We've got a very exciting and varied programme for you, with lots of speakers and representing lots of charities, and a very busy morning. So I'd like to start off by handing over to our District Governor, Tim, who's going to say a few words. Thank you. Tim.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Well, good morning to you all and welcome, as it's already been said, to this international seminar. First one on Zoom, and hopefully next year we'll be having a face-to-face one. I know Gabrielle has already thanked Pauline and John, but I'd like to thank them too, and Gabrielle, for putting this on today, because it's been hard work getting this all together. They've put some new and some old faces for you to give updates on their international charities here today. Talking of charities, please don't forget it's World Polio Day today, October the 24th, as it is every year. And on that note, I have great pleasure in introducing to you Anna Davey, who is our district lead for polio. So sit back and relax. Anna, over to you.
Right, I should be unmuted.
Yep.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Anna. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your first slide. Good morning, everybody. On August the 25th, after 4 years without a single case of polio, the African region was certified free of wild polio. In 1996, Nelson Mandela launched the Kick Polio Out of Africa campaign with Rotary International support, setting out a vision for a polio-free Africa. At this time, wild polio paralysed 75,000 children each year. In the early 90s, polio was a crippling disease. From 1950 to 1960, vaccination was bringing hope. And then from 1970 to 1990, global commitment to eradicate polio was starting to take effect. Now, Africa is free. This was not an easy task. Africa's sheer size, high levels of insecurity and immigration, as well as weak health systems and poor sanitation, are among the unique factors that have shaped the polio eradication response in this region. In Africa, 1.8 million wild polio cases were averted. 9 billion oral polio vaccination doses were provided. 220 million children were vaccinated multiple times annually. In preparation for the Sudan National Polio Campaign, 10 million doses of vaccination arrived at the beginning of October with a plane landing at Khartoum Airport. Planned for October, the campaign will immunise 8.6 million children under the age of 8. Unfortunately, COVID-19 pandemic interrupted the global polio eradication campaign. Tens of millions of vaccination opportunities have been missed in the ensuing months, with the possibility of Afghanistan and Pakistan having increased levels of infection of the wild polio virus. And even worse, spread the virus to countries which have already been eradicated, especially those that share the border with these two countries or have transport links. Around 1 million people have come from Pakistan to the UK. Many, not all, live in multiple occupied dwellings. Pakistan Airline operates flights to the UK, although since July flights have been banned. A newspaper report suggested that half of the UK's import COVID-19 cases from the Pakistan, so it is not impossible that the wild polio virus could be imported into the UK in a child or an adult showing no symptoms. The last report I had were Afghanistan 40 cases and Pakistan 65. Last year, Afghanistan had 58 and Pakistan 37. Fundraising is difficult at this present time, but Rotary has committed to raising $50 million each year to support global eradication, and thanks to the wonderful generous support from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, every pound we raise is matched 2 to 1. Rotary has contributed more than $2.1 billion to ending polio since 1985. Thank you very much. That's it.
Anna, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I hope you notice I've got my end polio pull-up behind me. And
I have.
And I've gone to town today, so hopefully some of our other clubs will be doing that tonight as well, lighting up buildings in our area. So Anna, thank you so much for the update, and I think I probably shot past one of your slides, so I do apologise for that. I think I got
That's okay.
So that's fine. Thank you very much. So let's take that one down. So now I'm going to ask, let's see, Jane Walker to come along and tell us all about what she's been up to in recent months, when I can find her. Hang on a minute, there's the polio one. Where's the, oh, for goodness sake. Somebody's playing sillies with me.
Shall I talk? Is it easier if I talk?
Yes, and give me a chance to find it then.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for inviting me, and for DG Tim for selecting us as one of his charities. I'm going to just talk you through quite quickly about what the pandemic looks like in the Philippines, and just like a quick start about the kind of things that we do. So Pauline, if we could go to the next slide. Purple Community Fund, more commonly known as PCF, works with families that live and work on toxic landfill sites. This came about when I travelled to the Philippines about 20 years ago, and I was on a sabbatical from work. I jumped in a taxi because I was curious to see what a squatter area looked like, and this is the area that I found, and it was very shocking to see so many men, women and children making a living on other people's rubbish. If we can go to the next slide, you'll see children, a mother and a child, and it's very common on the dump site to see women and children working side by side. Children are not able to stay at home. They live in shanties. They understand that if they don't work, they don't eat, and they understand that from a very early age. And when I was there, this was the scenes I had seen. And I realized that children really should be in school, time off from school, just to earn money for medicines. And so our work of our clinics has really supported the entire community. Over 26,000 people will use our clinic in a typical year. But we had noticed that there were lots of orphans, and the community had adopted those orphans. So one family might have had 3 or 4 children of their own, and then they took on these orphans, and they might have now have maybe 9 or 10 children in their family. And these families were really vulnerable, especially single mothers as well, because really struggled to find work. And so we started to work with Waste, and the district really drinks for charity, because we get thousands and if not millions of ring pulls from the district, and we are so grateful for that, because that is the raw material that we use for our livelihood project. In the Philippines, it's predominantly plastic and bottles, so it's been a really good help to get the ring pulls in, and it's been a fantastic project right up until COVID, because there's not much use for evening bags right now. So we needed to rethink that. But if we can just go to the next slide, and this is the project that that Tim is supporting, and it's our shoemaking project, because the dump site closed in 2018, and for the very first time in 18 years, the fathers actually came to us and asked us if we would run a project for them. Years previous, when we asked them if we could help them in any way, they always just said, just look after our children and look after our wives. And that was all they were concerned with. But when the dump site closed, some of the waste came into the residential area. They had no work to do. We tried a whole range of different projects for them, making things from aluminium tin cans and working with paper and working with metal, but the market wasn't strong enough really for our products. And so we just kept trying. And one day it dawned on me that when I was working in Tanzania, I used to see people making shoes from truck tires. I didn't like them because they were beveled. But I thought, well, what's a thinner tire than a truck tire? And came up with an aeroplane tire. So we then started to make sandals from using leather and using the inner tube from, the airplane tire for the sole. But the challenge with that was that I really wanted 100% recycled, upcycled product. So we then looked at the inner tube from truck tires, and we found that that actually made a really strong but flexible upper for a shoe, and birthed our school shoe. I'd sent Tim a whole range of shoes that people could touch and feel, because they are just so comfortable. And they made me a pair of shoes to road test. And I have to say, I've got some pairs of shoes that are like nearly over £100, but these shoes that really just cost a lot less are the most comfortable shoe I've got. So they are a really fabulous shoe. And I'll show you what we have done since, because schools are now closed in the Philippines. They won't open until the vaccine comes available. So our order of 3,000 shoes that we had was suddenly cancelled. If we can go to the next slide, Pauline, and then I think we'll... So our lockdown started March 15th, a bit earlier than in England. Families are living, 2 families sometimes in one shanty, so social distancing was a challenge. I live 10 minutes away from here, and for the last 18 months we haven't had running water from 5 a.m. until 5 p.m. So all of the things that we're told to safeguard ourselves during the pandemic, we were not able to do. But my biggest concern was how a family's going to eat. And here, no, you were right there, Pauline. We can go to the next slide, because you'll see here, lovely man, Jojo. I've known him for well over a decade. His job is to go to the fast food restaurants and collect the waste that customers leave on their plates. He then pulls off the pieces of chicken that are left on the bone, the bits of burger, the bits of French fries, and he mulches it all together. This was a wonderful photograph because it actually shows the pag. Now that in his hand is what will go into one of these buckets. and then they're sold to women who then fry up some onions and some garlic and some chili and some paprika, and that then becomes a meal which is sold in the community. When the restaurants were closed, we really didn't know how families were going to eat, and that was our biggest dilemma. So if we can go to the next slide, Pauline. Our driver sent me these photos a few days ago, and it was really 53% of adults are now unemployed in the Philippines with no social security to catch them if they fall. So that is a major, major concern all over the country. So if we can go to the next slide, because we don't have food banks in the Philippines. The next rule that came from the government was really peculiar. It said that anybody 21 years and below, and 16 above, which we understood, but the 21 years and below are required to stay indoors all day, all night. This is particularly tough for a family that are living in one room in a shanty that is really barely enough. Most families don't live in their shanties. They only sleep in them and cook their food because they're not big enough to live in. So now suddenly they've got all these children cramped into a very small space together, which is very hot. Most people started to cut off their electric because they couldn't afford to pay it. So there was no even electric fan for them. So really, really tough. And then a few weeks later, the mayor of Manila announced that any young persons 21 and below that were found outside, their parents would be fined. And if they were 12 years and below, their parents would face a 6 months imprisonment. So it's been very strict. We've had a curfew right from day one. And as time has gone on, martial law has also been enforced, especially when people are protesting and for food. So if we can go to the next slide, Pauline. We see that all the schools closed until a vaccine became available, which means that children thought the schools were going to finish and there was no more education for them for that year. So we were really delighted when the government announced that it's going to be a blended form of education. So they use workbooks and children will be given workbooks and they'll work from their home. As you can see Jojo here, very, very sweet, doing his work. And then there is Janine, who has just been given a mobile phone because they're also for high school and college will be learning through mobile phones. We found it a massive challenge because we had not budgeted for mobile phones or for data. And so we were busily writing to our grant providers, asking them if we could reallocate some of their funds for school uniforms to buy phones, and launched a campaign in the UK for anybody to donate their used cell phone or tablet to us so that we could use those in the Philippines for the children. School only started October the 5th, so we've only gone live for 2 weeks. We've already had 6 children drop out of school because they can't get the right signal and are struggling. So we're not sure how education's going to go this year. But one of the things, the main things is that the children are staying indoors and it is now the rainy season. So we've been thinking about how else we can support the children. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you, Pauline. Sustainable gardening and agriculture has been another project of ours. We have several hundred families that are living in the rural areas just outside of Manila. They were relocated from the slum. We've been teaching them how to grow their own vegetables. We've bought organic seeds and we've learned how to make our own organic fertilizer, and we run training programs. We can only train 10 people at a time, so it's really taking a long time to get round. But we have now set up about 300 people growing their own vegetables. And you can see Selena here on the right. She lives in the slum area, and some of the mothers in the slum area found out what we were doing and asked also if they could be part of training. Even though they have no space really to grow, she managed to put 5 little containers on to grow her own vegetables. But the one good thing about growing is that it's so rewarding and it's so good for your mental health. So it's really given those that are now taking part in this program a different kind of hope. And it's been so important because we are now 256 days still into lockdown. We actually haven't come out of lockdown yet. So this has been really, really beneficial. So if we can go to the next slide, Pauline, just taking my eye on the time. And because we have been feeding, we do 10,000 packs. So we're roughly feeding about 9,000 people a month. And we're going through a lot of rice sacks. So we looked at these rice sacks and we experimented, can we make a shopping bag? And to our surprise, we could. We've made a really strong shopping bag because, of course, a rice sack will hold 25 or 50 kilos. So these bags are really super durable, although they don't look it. We sent samples off to some wholesalers here that I know well, and we have been given an order for 2,600 of these rice sacks. They're also going to be for sale on our website as well. And that has kept 35 of our sewers in work. If we can go to the next slide. Our clinic expanded for all the clinics in the area were closed. There was no, the doctors and the nurses have been seconded to other hospitals. And so a lot of the clinics closed and we were the only clinic open. Our doctor is 60. And of course, she is one of those people that's meant to stay indoors, but she really pursued getting a special pass. And now she is opening our clinic and running our clinic for us for 2 days a week. And then our nurses are running it for the other third day. We are really overwhelmed by the amount of sick people because they can't get access at all to medicines or prescriptions. And so this now, I think we're probably going to exceed more than 26,000 people on the clinic. If we can go to the next slide. So our business skills training, we offer small loans now to families to get them back up and running and independent so they are not relying on us for their food. And some of these are our mothers. Maya, who is on the right hand side, she has an eatery. She's a really fantastic cook and she's earning just enough money to provide for her family in food. And used to be our jewelry maker. So she's always on hand to make jewelry if we need it. But in the meantime, she's still got an income. And then Lola here has always had this grocery store, but she wanted to expand it. And we added rice to that. And the women pay these loans back. And as they pay the loans back, we're able to recycle them. And our goal is that we'll have 300 families set up in their own businesses by the end of December. I think we're about 260 at the moment. So we're on track for getting that done. And if we can go to the next slide, please, Pauline. Emergency relief at the end of the month, whenever we have any food left, any money left over, it goes straight back into the community. And so you can see here, we're providing actually dried fish and rice to other members in the community. They might not be necessarily direct beneficiaries of PCF, but they're still part of the community and they're still very much in need of food. And the next slide, please. So Father's making shoes. What happened to our shoemaking project? Because it was really going to close. And we started to think, right, it's rainy season. These shoes are waterproof. Is there a way we can make it into a boot and actually produce a Wellington boot made from this? So Roy here, who is on the left, who you can see with the yellow face mask, he is our shoemaker. He's our trainer and the manager of the project. And as soon as we suggested it to him, he started to make these Wellington boots. We got some fathers in and we got the fathers to road test those boots for us just to see did they work, were they comfortable, what could we do to improve. The dads came back and said they're absolutely fantastic, they're the best boots they've had, and they say that they sometimes in a year will have to buy 2 pairs of rubber boots, so this boot they feel is going to last for many years. And now we started to make rubber boots for children as well, and we've road tested those. So we're really, really happy that we've been able to come up with a new product in the pandemic to add to our range of shoemaking. And this is something that we would really like the club to support, to buy a pair of Wellington boots for an adult, maybe a mother or a father, and a pair of Wellington boots for a child. And it makes such a difference. They are living in a very dirty slum. So when it rains, of course, the animals don't have, we don't have poop scoops. So you can imagine how unhygienic and unclean it is when it rains and it floods, and children are frequently walking through that now, and parents are walking through those flood areas. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So there's a closer look of the Wellington boot. And hopefully at district conference, I'll be able to bring some of these and you can try them on and see what they're like. And we've lined the boot so you don't get hot and sticky with it. And if we can just go to the next slide. Here are the fathers road testing the boots. So they're just trying them on and just seeing if they are comfortable for them to work in. So really pleased we got good feedback. And on to our next slide, please. So here we are. That gives you an example of the rainy season. So this is what it looks like when it rains. And it's like that every single time it rains, because there is nowhere for the water to go. There isn't a drainage area. There is just, it just fills up. So really, really difficult. And you can see these little children that are walking through that flood water, and it's really, really up to their knees. So yeah, quite serious, and really, really helpful if we can get the boots in. Thank you. And the next slide, please, Pauline. There's just some of the children that are there. So if we have a program, children need to come to the doctor, or they're coming to be part of the feeding program, then there is a dispensation for them to be able to come and do that. So these boots will be really good for the children. Jasoy, who is on the right, is particularly proud of his boots because apparently it is the first pair that he's ever owned. So I would imagine that would probably be true for many of our children and parents. And over to the next slide, please.
Jane, if you want to have some questions, we're getting near the time.
Yes. Yeah, I think the next slide is almost the end. And here it is. This is the last slide. So what we're asking is £25 for a pair of Wellington boots. It will buy a boot for a father or mother and a child. We'll keep them, and also most importantly, we'll keep our fathers employed. If they've got orders to make these boots, then they can still earn, and our shoemaking project can survive the pandemic with District 106's help, please. So I think we have about just 10 minutes for questions. I'm very happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Anybody got any questions? You might get away light with this, and they will be recorded so that I've managed to get the recording back on. So we will check for any questions at a later time. So if you suddenly think of something, if you write it in the chat box, we can pick it up and send it to Jane later. What about the phones and the tablets? Where do we send those to?
I can send you the information for those. They actually get sent to my house because then I prepare them, get them ready and get them sent off. So I can send you that information.
Okay. That'd be great. And then I can forward it to anybody else then as well.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, Tim, I think you want to say something.
Thank you, Pauline. Jane, I know it's very hard for you at the moment, obviously being in the UK, whereas I know you prefer to be out, obviously close to the community you're supporting. How are you getting on with the time differences, trying to liaise with them and trying to do things in the UK?
Well, when I first came back, I was getting up at 1:30 in the morning so that I was on Philippine start time. Our curfew ended at 10 a.m. in the morning, so it meant if I was online about 1:30, that was 9:30 their time. So and I carried on doing that for the first 3 months into the pandemic, until I could feel exhaustion creeping. And then I tried to slowly get back to UK time. So now, if I do have to have any meetings with donors, or we do a staff meeting, then I just have to get up in the middle of the night and do that. But my team, some of my team that speak to me on a regular basis, like the gentleman Jamil, who does all of our communications and videos and reports, he's actually put himself on UK time so that him and I can talk. I didn't ask him to do that, so but it does work very well. And of course, if we didn't have like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber, Zoom, I really don't know how we would have managed. I mean, it just would have been impossible to have completely changed. Every single one of our programs has been adapted and changed. And we made those changes really, really early on into the pandemic. So we put those changes in place around about May. When the government had made all their announcements of their plans for the rest of the year, we knew that this wasn't going to change. We weren't going to go back to normal. So yeah, hopefully not so many dark rings now as I had in the early days, Tim.
So there's a couple of people that have raised questions. Julia?
Yes, thank you very much. Forgive me if I've missed it, but certainly listening to your presentation this morning has brought the thing alive in a whole way. I've understood much more of what it's about, and also much more about what's going on in the Philippines. Have you either prepared a presentation, or do you come via Zoom to give talks to individual clubs?
I do give talks via Zoom to clubs, and I'm very happy to give a talk to any members in the district at all. If you want to arrange that with me, that would be absolutely fine. I usually send the PowerPoint to you because I work off a Mac, so it's not very compatible with Zoom. But I just find it just flows a bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be very happy. I know it's quite shocking because the Philippines, we don't hear in the news about all of this stuff, and even with the martial law, there have been shootings, because they have been ordered, shoot to kill if you can't control the crowd. So there's a lot of fear there at the moment, and I think now I've stopped looking to the future. I've just taking each month as it comes, because each month is a challenge enough, to be honest.
Yeah, it's watching. I just find myself thinking, we just don't know we're born, do we?
We're so lucky. We are so lucky.
Yeah,
we really are. And just the fact that our hospitals are open and equipped. I mean, a D and a C class hospital in the Philippines, they are charging £1,600 a day for so of course, even for wealthy people, they are struggling to pay that, and that's a C and a D class hospital, so it's not even a good hospital. But so many of the hospitals don't have the equipment that they need. So we're never really sure if we are getting accurate death rates, but we do know that the actual hospital system is creaking there, and they are, when you have to close clinics to second doctors and nurses, there's a problem. Yeah.
Jane?
I'll pass your name on, if I may, to the Speaker Secretary. Are your contact details available?
They will be, Julia, yes. Everything will
much.
go onto the district website to for you able to pick them up. Can we take one more question from Tom? Are you still wanting to ask Jane a question?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Good morning, especially Jane. We very much like to thank you, Jane, for coming to our club 3 weeks ago. It's been universally declared as the best talk we've had this season.
Oh,
So I would like to encourage any club that wants a speaker and to invite non-Rotarians to get the meeting like we did. You'll have the most entertaining speaker for your meeting that you've had. And Jane, when you came, do they still have jeepneys in Manila?
do they have which? Sorry.
Converted. Was in Manila that they had a thing called a jeepney, which was a
jeepney.
As a public transport. Yeah. Do they still have those?
Well, it's really funny actually. The jeepneys are only allowed to take a quarter of the people that they used to take before, and every jeepney has plastic sheeting in between sheets and big crosses on the jeepney seats where people aren't allowed to sit, and it's caused a lot of challenge for the jeepney drivers because they really earn their money on volume. So a lot of jeepney drivers have gone out of work and aren't working because they can't actually make it pay. But they still have jeepneys, and they're wonderful modes of transport. But we use motorbikes and pedicabs and tricycles. We use those all the time, and nobody's really allowed to go on those. They've tried putting perspex sheeting between the motorbike driver and the passenger. They've tried doing that as a way of keeping safe, but of course it's not very. So public transport is down by 65%. So it's very difficult for people to get around.
Jane, thank you, Tom, for your question. And Jane,
much.
thank you so much. We do realise that you have to go to another meeting. So thank you very much for your time. And anybody wants any information, it will be going on the website later, or I'm sure we can get some details to you if you want to contact Jane directly. So again, thanks, Jane, and we much appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
And we are going to go on to Margaret now. Margaret Morley from Warwick, who is going to tell us, if I can find it, the peace polls and tell us all about that. So let me have a look and see if I can find your
presentation.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. So
yeah, just I'm all in purple too, apart from the hair, but I have got a purple mask.
oh, well done. So you're here somewhere. Goodness me, where is it? And that's Jane's. I'm going to close Jane's down, I think, because I am getting a problem with too many open. So it is a bit of a... No, that's not it. Ta-da! There you go. Sorry for the delay.
Right, thank you. Yeah. Right. Well, good morning, everybody. I thought the best way of explaining the Peace Poll project is to actually show you the project in action. And this was the first poll that we planted. It was planted at a primary school in Corby. The school were holding a purple non-uniform day to help us to raise funds for polio eradication. So, of course, they had seen the connections between polio, peace, where there's conflict, there's more polio outbreaks. So the poll became very much a part of the day. Originally, they were going to plant their peace pole in their sensory garden, which is in the middle of the school, but they decided they wanted it to be in a much more prominent place. So they opted to have it at the entrance to the school so that it became a real focal point and that anybody coming to the school would see it, and that it would also give the children an opportunity to promote or to create a peace garden around the pole. And Pauline, can we go on? Please, next slide. Yeah, and as you can see, it was a really good PR exercise as well, because the local media were very interested, and again the connections were made with polio, with purple, and with peace. And it was the first time that something like this had happened in the area. Now there are lots of schools around that have got peace poles. Thank you, Pauline. So just a few facts about the peace pole, and I'd like to stress here that this is not a Rotary project. This is a project that is supported by Rotary clubs. The idea originated in Japan just after the Second World War and was taken up by the World Peace Organization, which have connections with the United Nations. And I do urge you to go onto their website and you'll just see how phenomenal this project is. Peace poles are found all over the place in all sorts of different areas, ones that you just wouldn't imagine, even at the top of Mount Everest. I mean, we'll have to obviously take a word for that, because I don't think many of us will get up there to have a look at that one. But they've been planted by lots of people, from pop stars to popes. So it is really worth looking at the website, because it is quite sort of inspirational. And you can see in the picture at the bottom that there are two representatives from the World Peace Organization actually presenting a pole to an RI president. So there are lots of connections between that organization and with Rotary. The organisation is actually based in America, but we do not need to go to America to order a peace pole. They can be ordered from Scotland. They have a centre in Scotland, and that's where our poles come from. Every pole is bespoke because every school, every community who orders a pole has different languages. You can have up to 8 languages on your pole, and the centre can cater for almost every language and variations of languages as well. It is a non-profit organisation, so whatever profits they make from selling peace poles, it does go back into peace education. My club decided that we would like to fund a couple of, 3 poles actually, for 3 of the schools in Warwick. I went to district, and it meets the criteria for a district grant, and got the money doubled so that we were able to provide 6 poles. And I think I can also add Bewdley to that list of where there are peace poles, because when I did the slide, unfortunately I didn't know about Bewdley then, but I think Bewdley has been one of the more recent clubs within 1060 to order a peace pole. Thank you, Pauline. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and I could extol the virtues of peace poles and why this is such an important project, and why it's a project that is really good for clubs and schools to work together on. But I think it's much more powerful when you see what teachers actually have to say about the project. As we all know, promoting peace is one of the main areas of focus for Rotary, but peace education is also very much part of the school curriculum. So there are lots of ways that we can connect with schools by providing peace education projects. And in fact, Rotary offers peace education projects at every level of education, from the primary school all the way through to postgraduate education. So, especially today, with a lot of our usual projects, youth projects being curtailed, perhaps it's just another opportunity for us to be able to work with schools. Thank you, Pauline. The next slide. But it's not just a matter of planting a peace pole. It's how the schools utilise their peace poles. And I've got just a couple of examples. This is a school in Leicester, and they made their peace garden very much an outside classroom. Now you can see from the plaque that they have that they worked with several organisations. They also had a foundation grant to be able to create the peace garden, and therefore it is used as an outside classroom, and there are lots of subjects that obviously come in sort of the Peace Garden, particularly connected with the environment. But they also encouraged parents to sit in the Peace Garden when they came along to collect their children. But since that photograph was taken, they have been given lottery money to put a roof over the seating area. So it's now an all-weather outside classroom. Thank you. And another, Pauline, thank you.
This is the last slide, Margaret, because we're running out of time.
All right. Well, can we just rush through them? This is the one that where a Rotary Club actually helped to renovate an area within a school so that they could have an area of tranquility. Can we just quickly move on this is a project that Warwick is involved with, school creating a peace garden, and we're going to donate a peace pole. And just the last one, it's just sort of perhaps, you know, some of the reasons that it's very worthwhile getting involved in this sort of project, because there are just so many opportunities for us to work with school. And just leave my thought for the day. And I think we can all sort of recognise that and resonate with it. If we are to reach real peace in the world, we have to start with our children. And I think that can be said for most things. Right, thank you, Pauline. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. That's really good. And I know our clubs have been looking to, but we're thwarted with COVID at the moment. So we will get there eventually. So thank you. And any questions, they will be answered by Margaret at the end, if that's okay with everybody. We're going to move on to Colin Cartwright now from Aquabox, and I will do my best to find his slide. There we go. Colin, over to you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to sort of come and talk about Aquabox and what's going on at the moment. It's been a very challenging sort of time because of COVID-19, but we've still been able to get aid out to communities despite the pandemic. If we move on to the sort of the next slide, it probably speaks for itself that we're a voluntary led organisation. So if you go on to slide 2.
I've lost my cursor, hang on a minute.
But
Oh,
up until now, we've had about 70 plus volunteers that have been sort of working from the depot. But because of COVID-19, sort of many of them have not been able to sort of come in to sort of help. And some of them are sort of very vulnerable, and they've decided that they won't be coming back as volunteers. But we've been able to sort of recruit new volunteers through Rotary contacts and through local people within the sort of community. So we should still have a strong sort of base of volunteers within sort of the depot. We've recently sort of moved sort of depot in the sort of the last sort of couple of months. The old depot wasn't really fit for purpose, and the new one allows us to sort of grow the charity and enable people to go about their work in a much better sort of way. We hope to have the water filter sort of team come back in the next couple of sort of weeks. They haven't been able to operate because of us, or because of COVID-19, and also because of the sort of the move from the old depot to the sort of new one. So that is sort of good news for us. It speaks for itself, some of the things that are in the slide, but we have got 18 Aquabox ambassadors across the UK, France, the US and Australia. And quite recently, we sort of attended a sort of meeting with the Rotary Club of St. Elphege. And through that sort of meeting that we were able to attend, we've been able to form a link with the Rotary Club of Stade in Germany. And we're looking to sort of partner up with them to provide some villages in Senegal with some sort of water filters. So it just shows how by networking with other sort of clubs, we can reach out to people in other countries to get aid out to other areas of the sort of world. Another thing that we've sort of been able to sort of look at is a potential link with Rotary in sort of France. They've got contacts with Rotary in Beirut, and they've done a fact finding mission a few weeks ago, and there's a possibility for us to get aid into sort of Beirut. We're just waiting for more due diligence to sort of come back, but it just shows you the power of sort of Rotary, both in the UK and throughout the world, to help sort of people that need sort of safe drinking water. We can probably sort of move on to the sort of next slide. We go wherever disasters sort of strike, and then if you go on to the next one, we can move on to the next slide. On the top left hand side, this is a refugee sort of camp in Yemen. It's been a very difficult area to access. There's high risk to distribution agencies in getting the aid to people, but because of the good partners that we've got in the UK and Yemen, we've been able to ensure supply to people that need sort of help. And so far, up until this year, we've now distributed our 4th aid shipment in sort of 2 sort of years. So that's a good thing that we've been able to do. The second picture on the top right just shows you the aid that we had to get out to Kerala due to the widespread sort of flooding. And then if you come down to the bottom left-hand slide, you can sort of see sort of pictures of volunteers getting aid out to communities in Nepal. Nepal is sort of quite common for its mudslides, landslides and earthquakes. And in August time, you can sort of see that those volunteers were helping to get our aid out to people that were hit by the mudslides and land sort of slips. We also get great help from the British sort of Gurkhas, Nepalese Armed Police and Rotary clubs in Nepal to get that aid sort of out. We've now got some sort of new partners in Nepal, which will help us set up discrete stock holding of stock where there's common disasters that happen within Nepal, which will enable us to sort of get aid out there sort of more sort of quickly. And in the bottom right, we can sort of see a picture of a refugee sort of camp in sort of Syria. Back in sort of February, we was able to sort of use our partners hand in sort of hand for sort of aid that was able to get new aid back into sort of Syria. We found it difficult over the last sort of couple of years, but we were able to get 160 sort of boxes out to communities there, which was helping up to 1,000 sort of people. If we move on to our next slide. The most common denominator is the lack of clean, safe drinking water. In all cases, safe water supplies are disrupted. Disease massively is increased with cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and communities are sort of weakened and struggle to rebuild. But our filters are helping to provide safe drinking water. If we go on to the next slide, we can just see a picture of the filters that we send out to these communities. We've got the family filter, which is on the left-hand side, which costs us 25 sort of pound. Those are made in the depot by our volunteers. We have got an update with the sort of filter. It's not their picture, but the current family filter has been replaced with a new one, which avoids people having to backward flush the sort of filter. So it makes it easier for the sort of recipients to use. In the middle, we have our Aquabox 12 box. This is where we put 12 family filters in a box. So if we just need to get filters out to people quickly, we put 12 filters in a box and it costs us £300. And on the right-hand side, we've got our community filters that we use, and that can sort of help up to sort of 400 sort of people. The family filter delivers 1 litre a minute. The sort of community filters delivers up to 6 litres a minute. And if we move on to our next slide. This is our goal box that we've sort of keep sort of changing the sort of contents because we get feedback from partners, and we just make sure that the aid that we put in there is fit for purpose for the communities that are receiving sort of the aid. And we can move on to the sort of next sort of slide. We're always ensuring that we sort of get proper sort of distribution to the communities that sort of need our sort of aid. And so we use trusted sort of partners. They use due diligence. They record the distribution that they sort of complete. Here you can see sort of in this left-hand picture that they're recording sort of the distribution with the sort of recipients with sort of fingerprints, because some communities are unable to actually sort of write. And then if we sort of move on to our sort of next slide. This is just showing that we're trying to also ensure that we get correct usage of the sort of filters. So on the left-hand side, you can sort of see a picture of one of our partners who are given sort of instruction to the communities on how to use the filters sort of safe. And the picture on the front, again, we can see sort of people that are being shown up close how to use the filters sort of safely. And then the next slide. This gives you just an idea of what type of aid that we sent out over the a 12-month sort of period. The total cost of reaching out to all those communities cost us £350,000 sort of pound, which is around £7,000 sort of week. So in these sort of times with COVID-19, it becomes more challenging to sort of fundraise, but we're thankful for all the sort of support that we've had from the district sort of clubs, also from match funding that was given to Solihull, St Elphege and Aquabox through the district. That's greatly sort of helping us. So we really want to send our sort of thanks to the district for all that sort of support. We've also sort of got another link with Aquabox in Australia. It's always been difficult in the Asia Pacific sort of basin to sort of get aid out to the Philippines, Malaysia and Indonesia. And we got a Zoom meeting with the trustees and Aquabox Australia on Monday, where we're sort of trying to build our links with them and try to work at ways how we can get more aid out to people in the Asian Pacific.
Colin, are we getting near the end now? Because
I think that's pretty sort of well lit. So I think I'm within the 10 minutes in any case.
Brilliant. And then any questions that you have for Colin, please let us have it for the question and answers at the end, please. Colin, thank you. I'm always inspired by what your what Aquabox does, and I just think you do a fantastic job. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop the share now, and I'm going to look for Ian Wilson with Shelterbox, please.
So I'm muted, so I think you can hear me. So good morning all, and I'm assuming most of you know me, but my name's Ian Wilson. I'm the District Shelterbox Coordinator for 1060, and hopefully the first slide will
Yeah, when I can find it, you can have it. Oh,
so yeah, if I I'll just start talking. Yeah. So I mean, 2020 marks the 20th anniversary of Shelterbox. So Shelterbox was started as a Millennium Project by the Rotary Club of Helston in Cornwall. So this year is our 20th anniversary. And so just go straight on to the next one, Pauline. Thanks. Well, I shouldn't have put the transitions in. It doesn't work very well on Zoom, does it? But so yeah, so 2020 marks the 20th anniversary of Shelterbox, and during that time, we've helped about 1.5 million people around the world with emergency shelter and other essential items to help recovery from disaster, whether it's man-made or natural disaster. So next slide, Pauline. So, and we've taken aid to some, some far-flung places. So we work with people all over the world who've lost their homes for all kinds of disasters, whether it's floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, or conflicts. We go where people are vulnerable. So you'll often find Shelterbox operating in some pretty challenging places. Next slide, Pauline. And it's just a map of where Shelter Box has supported over the last 20 years. So 97 countries supported, from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. And like I said, about 1.5 million people last year. So I've got the numbers for last year. We supported about 38,500 families. So something approaching 120,000 people. This year numbers may be a little bit down because of COVID, but not by much. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So next slide, Paul. And we couldn't have got where we are without our supporters. And you've been with us every step of the way, you know, up to now, and to trying to reach our future goals. So from Rotary clubs around the world, children in schools, youth groups, we continue, you know, to be inspired and amazed by this sort of passion, dedication of our supporters. And Rotary is key amongst that. So next slide, Pauline. So
I'm not doing.
That's all right. That's all right. Go on. Just go on to. That's fine. Oh, now we're really flying through them. So what has been the impact of COVID, and is what we do, you know, still needed? And that's you know, been a key question. And yes, it is. I mean, if you could go back one slide, Pauline.
It's the transitions, I think, that are doing it.
Okay. No, if you. Okay, I'll talk to this one. Yeah,
we won't use transitions.
No, okay, I'll talk to this one. So, so there are millions of people. You know, at any point in time, it's about 88 million people who are displaced through no fault of their own, either through natural or man-made disasters, and they're often in overcrowded settlements. So, you know, sanitation is very poor. Fresh water may not be readily available, and there's also a lack of medical facilities as well. So you've got this double whammy of people living in very crowded areas and very little medical support. So, you know, COVID is a real threat in these camps, and so shelter can really help in a number of ways. So you know, by providing, you know, a family shelter, then it allows a family to isolate. So rather than being in communal centres, which are often split by sex. So what we found in Malawi was they had male communal centres, female and children. So families were split, you know, across the centres. So by providing a family unit, then they can isolate together. We can also, you know, help if they have accommodation that is not quite suitable for 24-hour isolation. You know, as we heard earlier from Jane, you know, the accommodations are often very small and only used really for sleeping. So we can help expand, you know, using shelter kits, expand the family units so it's a bit more suitable, and you know, allowing families to be together. And also with non-food items, there's a lot of sharing goes on. So if we can provide families with the individual sets of equipment they need, like lighting, you know, for kitchen equipment and tooling, then they don't have to share it, and again, you help stop the spread. And there's also education. So, you know, in these areas there's no internet, you know, no newspapers, no TV. So, you know, it's very important that people in, you know, the who have been displaced are educated on the virus and how to prevent the spread. So there's probably 5 or 6 ways that we can help to you know, prevent the spread of COVID. And the other thing we've done, which was on the previous slide, but that's fine, leave it where it is. We've enhanced or added to the aid packages we provide. So we're providing washing up bowls, you know, for water, and soap, and in some cases PPE or anti-bac. So that again, what we're trying to do, you can't stop the spread, but maybe you can slow it down. By providing, you know, these essential items to families that are already in, you know, pretty dire straits. And the what we're trying to do there is what we've heard about in this country, which is try and, you know, prevent the spread of COVID and flatten the curve so that the international agencies can get aid to these people who really desperately need it. This is a picture of a young lady from International Organization for Migration. So this is, you know, you can see the social distancing here. So, you know, like we do in this country, we're trying to, make sure we do everything we can to prevent the spread of COVID. So if we are doing education or training, then it's in a very socially distanced way. And I hope she's got a very loud voice, because people seem to be a long way away from her there. So if we go to the next slide, Pauline. So as I said, Shelterbox is,
All right.
if we could just go back one, we'll skip this one, but I'll, if we
try.
can go, yeah, okay. I'll remember not to put the transitions in next time. Okay, let's leave it at that. So how can you help? Fundraising, I know it's difficult, but we've had some very good examples of clubs finding, innovative ways of fundraising in these very difficult times. Connect, so please tell people about Shelterbox, spread the word. We know that the more people know about Shelterbox, then the better it is, if you like, for fundraising from our side. And share. A lot of clubs are very good on social media, so Shelterbox is very strong on Twitter and Facebook. So please retweet us, reshare our Facebook posts, and again spread the word of what we're doing. For clubs, there is this action toolkit, so the web address is there. There's lots of ideas for fundraising, and also up-to-date information on how Shelterbox is coping with COVID in what we do. So I think the final thing is that so there has been no impact to date on the operational side of Shelterbox. We continue to help people desperately in need. Yeah, clearly we've had to make cuts, in the non-operational side, but we continue to operate at the same level we did pre-COVID, because our, what we do is needed even more now than it was before. So COVID has a massive impact on people who are already in dire straits, and so thank you for your continued support. What we do is needed more than ever. And if I do have to leave, unfortunately. If anyone's got any questions or wants me to do a Zoom talk, I'm doing about 2 a week at the moment, all over the country and internationally. So if you want me to come and talk to your club, more than happy to do that. And I'll leave it at that, Pauline.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you, everybody. As Ian said, he has to leave now. So if there are any questions, just put them on chat box and we can forward them to Ian at a later date. So thank you very much, everybody. It's time for that all-important break. Sorry, I'm not making you coffee this week, but please, if you can be back in 10 minutes, that would be really good. Thank you.
Pauline?
Yep.
I think we've got everybody muted at the minute, so
Hopefully.
I don't know what's going to happen with that recording. But
Well,
I decided this morning not to record it to the cloud because it usually gets too full.
yeah.
And that was
I've
a mistake.
recorded it to the cloud.
And that was a mistake, because losing the power meant the first bit of the recording's definitely on my computer somewhere. And I think we're both recording the second bit.
Yeah,
so
probably.
I'll see if Dave Roberts can patch it back together.
Yeah. So and there's lots of people saying, I can do it, just let us do it. So that's fine. So we are recording it now, so that's fine.
Yeah. Oh well. We learn these things, don't we?
Ooh.
I've put in the chat. I can't see Sam and Rob Melia at the minute. Were they coming in late?
Yes. Yeah. I'll go and phone them, make sure that they're on their way.
We're down to 40 participants now. We get the odd one drops out.
I thought you had a new computer, John. Why did it go wrong?
It wasn't the computer, John. It was complete and utter power failure.
All right.
The whole house went off.
Just your house, not the neighbours?
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether anybody else's went off. And the annoying thing was, John, I was recording it to my computer, not the cloud.
All right.
Because the cloud fills up so quickly.
We found when we do it, if we record to the computer, we can't actually send more than 15 minutes to somebody else.
All right.
It's weird. We don't understand how to get around it.
Right. The last time I just used Dropbox. Put it into Dropbox and Dropbox picked it back up.
Right.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens today.
I reckon you need 50p for your meter, John.
I need more than 50p, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sod's law, isn't it?
Yeah. You can't control that situation.
John Parkinson, where's David this morning?
He has been on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not on the list of participants.
Well, he was.
He's certainly been on screen.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He's gone for his cup of tea.
He wouldn't turn it off, would he, to go for his tea?
Wouldn't have thought so.
But I certainly saw him earlier.
I must admit, I thought I did, but then I've just been looking at who the 40 are, and he's not there.
DG David Arbery. His name's still there. On screen view.
Well, it's not on participants view.
No, but it's on but if you look on the screenshot, it's there.
All right. Yeah, he must have gone out. I've also got it on my tablet. Oh, you can't see it, can you, for the background? Damn.
No, it disappears.
Get rid of the background.
Right, I'm going to make my tea.
And me.
What view have I got here?
I think it's going well, Pauline, isn't it?
Yeah, apart from a few hiccups. With
Well, I mean, you know, it's there are a lot of speakers, so there's a lot of. I think it's going really well. Yeah.
We'll see if we can get the rest of the production up now. So,
Are you okay, John? Are you back with us now?
Yes, I had a catastrophic power failure.
Oh my goodness me!
But everything went, and it was the only time I decided to record to my computer.
Stop video, yes.
Yes, stop video.
Never mind.
There you go, you're black. I can't see you now.
I can't even see me. I've done something else with the.
You've got so many people on the screen, Dad, that you can't see everybody anyway.
Well, I can see amazing how many. I'm on the PC, and I've got only 2 pages. But I was sitting up at the top next door to Pauline.
For some reason, just watch out. Are you on mute? Have you unmuted yourself?
No,
we can hear you, John.
You've cut your video off. You need to switch video back on. Oh, he's muted now.
He's muted, yeah, but yeah. Why is my video? Oh. Start video.
Pauline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody, you can't work on the fact that you won't get errors with doing Zoom imports of pages of from other people, of charities and that. We had that slight problem when we did assembly and things, so it's just one of those things. And but I think it's going well.
Yeah, I think it's going very well, considering, you know, that there's a lot of speakers and a lot of slides.
As someone who hasn't been involved in the organisation, it's excellent just watching it. So thank you.
Thank you, whoever that was.
That was Honor.
Honor.
That was Honor Keating.
Always Honor Keating.
Thank you for inviting Sam and I to give an update.
Whoa.
So,
Mind you can say one thing for when, you know, at least people don't have to travel, do they? They can get up that much later and just sit in their little room and press a button and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a big advantage, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And it's such a dull day today outside. It's not pleasant at all.
And of course, the downside is that we don't socialise. We don't have small talk
It is
around,
sad,
do
that
we?
is.
Yeah.
And have a bit of a chit chat somewhere or other.
Well, that's the big disadvantage, the fellowship side, isn't it?
It is.
They're having a cup of coffee together and chatting to people. I think everybody misses that at the moment.
Gabrielle, it's sunny here.
Oh, is it? Oh, I can see. Are you in the Bahamas, are you, John?
Yeah, yeah.
Gabrielle, what we do as a club, every other meeting, we have a chit chat meeting and we just chat.
It's a very good idea. Yeah, brilliant idea. Just having a chat.
Jubilee just start their meeting at 7 o'clock for a half an hour chat before the official meeting at 7:30.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those that want to join, yeah.
I think just people that have
Morning,
unmuted
Caroline.
themselves now that are able to chat. So that's good. So it's nice to see you, Anna. I've never really met you before, so nice to see you today. And just thank you very much for your presentation.
We're finding that some people are actually dialing into get into sort of meetings because some people don't like to go online, whereas they can use their the mobile phone if they've got 3 minutes or their home phone.
Yeah.
And it allows them to have that connection.
Yeah, it's nice to have everybody chatting.
Hello, Pauline.
Hi,
Nice to see you.
And thank you very much. Welcome, Sam and Rob. I was getting a bit concerned.
Well, it's Trevor next, isn't it? Is Trevor with us?
Hi, Sam and Rob. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Pauline. Rob's just on his way back from work. So
Oh, well, so I've got your video ready. So I was just a bit concerned because John said they're not here yet. So that's why I rang your mum.
Yeah.
So that's lovely. There's Trevor. I can see Trevor.
Yeah, there's Trevor. Trevor's here. Hi, Trevor.
Hello.
You're on next, you know, Trevor.
Nice to see you, Peter, with your purple on like me.
You're muted, Peter.
Good. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I think we need to get started.
No.
So those that haven't come back yet, John, have you disappeared? Where are you? Oh, there you are.
I'm in the Bahamas.
Yeah, in your dreams. So I'm going to ask Trevor. to give us an update. There we go with tools for self-reliance. Are you okay with that, Trevor?
Absolutely fine. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
There's 6 slides which I provided specially for the film, and we can go through them very quickly. This first one is just to give you the title. Next one, please.
Yeah, when I can find this. Why is this not doing it? Somebody is not loving me very much at the moment.
Must be more than that.
Ah, there you are. That's why it's got flashing things.
Oh God. Right. Well, anyway, I'll start talking about it. There's some UK data about tools for self-reliance. Headquarters are in Netley. I think it's going. Oh, it's telling you now. There's 38 volunteer groups around the UK, and that's the map to show it. The important thing from the data from Tools for Self-Reliance is that over the 40 years, because it's their 40th anniversary this year, the biggest single group of organisations that have supported it from the beginning is Rotary and the Inner Wheel, but by far the biggest single contributors. I wanted you to know that. I think we can probably go on to the next slide, please, Pauline. Oh, well, there's 133 tool collector groups, one of which is in Birmingham out at King's Heath, and the other is where we send our stuff, which is to Barton under Needwood. There are allegedly 700 volunteers. Let's go on to the next slide. This one, I think, tells you when it's allowed. Yes, I know we're beset by data these days. That's the sort of amount of volunteer hours that's going into the production of these things, and there's a value put to it. The next slide actually shows you the countries in which they work. They're all Commonwealth, well, they're Commonwealth countries. They're all English speaking, and when I mention sewing machines ever, it's terribly important if they're electric sewing machines and they're compatible with the UK system, they're also compatible with these 6 countries. Now, there's a next slide which says the areas of activity, which is terribly complicated, and we don't need to waste our time with that, but that's for the film. You can see the various things that they're involved in. And then lastly, the last picture should have some writing on it, but if it doesn't, there we are. Oh, right, there we are. It's 51 partners. Oh, you've gone back. Okay.
It's very sensitive.
Okay, don't worry about it. You're going backwards. Let's abandon the pictures. Right. Yeah, 119, I can't say, 119 projects, 51 partners, 6 countries, very well. Now, I've got a text here, which I'm going to read out so that also for the record, I mentioned that it's the 40th anniversary, that you can't claim that they're unique, but they are special in the way they operate because they have a fundamental principle, which is they work in partnership with other people. And they derived this idea from Archbishop Trevor Huddleston, who was part of setting the thing up in the first place. They offer help, and the partners decide what they need. And so I would call this an anti-imperial model, because it's, we don't tell them that they need. They tell us what they need, and then we match, if we can, what they need with training, and that's where the UK fundraising is so important. In terms of data, approximately 25,000 refurbished hand tools plus innumerable Singer sewing machines are sent to Africa every year. Now, the point I wanted to make behind all this is that in this present health crisis, those minority of us that read The Guardian have read that in actual fact, the reports from local authorities are that there's a massive amount of house clearing going on. They're complaining there's so much stuff going out in the bins. I'm saying that donating unwanted tools and sewing machines to Tools for Self-Reliance is a better option than sending to landfill. And also, I'm throwing a suggestion to Gabrielle here. It's environmentally friendly on 2 counts. First of all, it saves landfill, but also, if you went onto the Tools for Self-Reliance website, you'd see bits of film. It's also the energy used in refurbishment is marginal as compared with what will be needed to produce a new product. It's the same argument about recycling glass. Now, the charity sends wood and metalworking tools, even somebody listening knows this, even redundant anvils, tailoring equipment, bicycle repair kits, etc. And my final point I want to make is this, that refugees from conflict zones can't especially be helped by Tools for Self-Reliance, but it is important antidote to economic migration. If we can help more and more cooperative groups in Africa to develop their own skills and businesses, fewer people will be driven to the desperation of trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe to achieve what is by and large an illusory dream world. So I think we should be selling people the idea that people should not need to move to take risks because of the enormous pressure of poverty. Self-reliance, Tools for Self-Reliance does make a difference where it is now working. And with the help of Rotary clubs across the district, we can make Tools for Self-Reliance even more successful. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, and on time as well. So very grateful to that. I'm sure we've all been doing a lot of churning out, so it might be worth looking at what we're taking down the landfill and sending them to instead. Right. Any questions, please put them on the chat box for Trevor later. Guatemala Literacy Project. Have we got Caroline or John speaking?
It's me today, please.
Right. There you go.
Although Dad is on the call, so any questions can also be referred to Dad. So today I'd like to talk about the Guatemala Literacy Project. What a surprise, or one of my favourite subjects. And thank you again for all the support that you guys have given over the last several years and over the last grant period. This is just closed now. Always looking for more, and I'll show you why in a second. So if we move on to the next slide, please. We've talked before about this 23-year-old project. GLP is a gold standard for Rotary projects as defined by Ian Risley in the 2017 to 2018 presidency that he had. Bearing in mind that it's such a sustainable program for 600 clubs over 80 districts globally. The slide here has got lots of numbers in it, and a lot of these numbers can be seen if you go onto the website, which is really packed with information and also a lot of colour. But bearing in mind that there are actually 4 programs, not just the 3 here. We've got the reading program, which is the Spark program, the textbook program, the youth development program, sponsor program, but we've also got the computer program as well, which I've not reflected in here at all. But the numbers in here are astronomical. Over the 23 years, over 230,000 students have been through this program, and the children who enter into this, their reading is 49% better than the national average, bearing in mind Guatemala's illiteracy problems. It's actually training teachers how to teach. So 912 teachers have been through this program, but only 94 schools. So if you can imagine, just in those 94 schools, that many students, 24,000 students for just the reading program have been able to develop. You can see there that it's a very influential project. And then when they get on to the textbooks, a huge amount of textbooks have been given to just a slightly increased number of students, nearly just over 26,500 students there. And the schools, once they start in these programs, 99% of them carry on with this project and program, and that's affecting 207 schools. And bearing in mind that these schools are all over Guatemala, the main pathway is up through Highway 1. So if you ever see a map of where Guatemala literacy affects schools, you'll see that it's where the main population lies, which is along Highway 1 through the high Andes up in there. The other very special area, and it's one that I know that Kenilworth Rotary and certainly my parents and I have also engaged in, is the sponsorship element. A much smaller number of students here, but what we're doing with that sponsorship is allowing very specific students to be able to develop away from the field. So children who are spotlighted by the the teachers that go to the schools and into the communities may see that some children have had to drop out and had to go and work in the fields, and these students are also highlighted as requiring sponsorship or benefiting from sponsorship, and have gone through to that program. So over 700 students have done this, and in this sponsorship program they also get to do a lot of work with then the learning how to develop interview skills, presentation skills, and how to interview well, and areas that they can function on at a much higher level than being in the fields. They can then go to the city and work in that way as well. So a hugely benefiting program across this way. And if you just move on to the next slide, which is actually my last slide, I will be taking a little time to talk about this one. Bear in mind that this is a 23-year-old program, and we've done a huge amount of work, as you can see from the statistics on this previous slide. But also bear in mind that Guatemala has had two really big, significant social and developmental problems in the last 2 years. One was a massive volcanic eruption that was slap bang in the middle of the highest density of population, affecting a huge number of its population. And also, as with everybody else, COVID is affecting this particular population, who were also locked down in early March, as we were. Although it hadn't really reached Latin America at that stage, Guatemala was very, very keen to lock down its borders, and causing a lot of difficulty, obviously, as everybody else is experiencing. You've heard from the other populations with people who can't work, etc. So although they may not have had as many deaths per million of population or COVID cases per million of population, it's still very much reflecting on their ability to work and be sustainable. They're desperate, as always, and as is everybody else, for donations. And this year, because Rotary's matching process has been reduced due to all of our inability to raise monies as effectively and efficiently as we have before, there's an anonymous Guatemalan donor who's stepped in and will match Rotary on this particular piece. So just as previously, when you put in your £100, which is always gratefully received and very, very well donated from RGBI over the last couple of years, this will give us £250 worth of value into Guatemala Literacy Project. So although the 2021 grant is closed, it closed on the 15th of October, we are still collecting, and I am more than happy to come and speak to various clubs, any clubs, about Guatemala Literacy Project. It's something that's very very strong in my ethos. I very strongly recommend supporting this program. I'm more than happy to come and do a Zoom meeting with you and show you some of the benefits and some of the ways in which these children are able to develop due to the finances, due to the books and computers and the support that they can get through here. So slightly earlier, if you do have any questions, please come through to me or to Dad, who's also on the call. But thank you very much for this opportunity to give you another update on GLP. Thank you very much.
Caroline, thank you very much. As you say, there are a lot of clubs in Rotary that support GLP, and long may that continue. Despite us, as you say, the COVID, it's good that somebody stepped in. So thank you for that. Questions afterwards if you want to. Wengo, now then, Rob and Sam, I can see you sitting there. Do you want to have your video first, or?
Yeah, we thought we'd, rather than go cold call on a Saturday morning, we do it all in the video where we could do multiple takes when I got it wrong, Pauline.
Right, here we go then with a bit of luck.
Thank you for inviting Sam and I to give an update. Sue and Tony, Sam's mum and dad, send their best wishes.
Despite these very strange times that we find ourselves in, the work in the Wengu projects Malawi has continued. We were due to fly out in May, but obviously that didn't happen, and it looks like it'll be a while until we can visit again. Fortunately, the processes, safeguards and governance that we built into our project management over the years have meant that we've been able to continue our work in Malawi, although our fundraising ability has been significantly impacted. We currently have 12 projects in progress in Malawi. We have 2 whole school renovation projects. The photos that you can see show what a significant difference can be made to a learning environment. The classroom on the screen is a before and after photograph of the same room. It cost £280 to make this transformation. We are making school furniture for students and teachers at these 2 schools and at other schools we've previously refurbished. There are 9 toilet blocks being built at 4 different schools, and we've paid for enough orphan care food to supply the feeding stations until December this year. We have an adult education programme starting at the end of the month once the refurbishments of the classrooms is completed. The impact of the pandemic on fundraising has limited the number of projects we're able to take on at present. We have a few new schools identified to work with, all of which have significant needs. One school, Banga Banga, has one of the worst projects.
Yeah, I'll speak to you later.
Grass hut, which is used by years 5 and 6 children. How to imagine what this is like in the rainy season. The community have dug the foundations for a new double classroom. They've made thousands of mud bricks. They've collected sand from the riverbank for construction. But they've come to a halt as they don't have the funds for the rest of the materials required. To build a new double classroom like the ones you've seen previously for 2 year groups costs approximately £4,500. We have 35 projects at 5 different schools costing £34,000 in total that are currently not funded. Whole class teaching kits have been put on hold until we're able to visit Malawi again. Thank you once again for the invitation, and we trust you'll all stay safe and well.
Thank you for inviting Sam and I to give an update. Sue and Tony, Sam's mum and dad, send their
Hang
best
on.
wishes.
Despite these very strange times that we find ourselves in, the work in the Wengu projects Malawi has continued.
As interesting as it sounds, I think we can do away with hearing it twice. Sam, Rob, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Not really, other than we've been, because of the way we've structured ourselves over the years, we've been able to carry on with relatively little impact in terms of our work out there. We still get thousands of WhatsApp messages a week showing the progress of the projects that we've got. The only impact really has been the number of projects and the speed of some of the larger projects that we've been able to do. But actually the kind of infrastructure has meant that, you know, we've been able to continue with the school refurbishment. The only aspect of the project that has gone on hold is the whole class teaching kits. And that's because we physically got to go out there. So that's on hold for new developments. Clearly the ones that we've got in schools at the moment still carry on. But we're hoping, you know, things turn around and that we can get to go out next year and that can develop, but watch this space.
Yeah, I mean, I keep in touch with your mum and dad, so I get updates. And I think the good thing about it is, although you're speaking to District 1060, I see the reports that come in, and there are a lot of clubs outside of District 1060 that are also supporting you.
Yes.
So if you want any more information about Wengu, please put it in the chat box and we will answer your questions. Are you able to stay with us till the end,
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. So if anybody's got any questions for them, please make a note of it. Now then, we're going to go on to Rise Against Hunger. One of us is hopefully, oh, he's managed to do it. Well done, John. Thank you for that. Eric, are you around?
I'm here, yes. Yeah. So Irene's going to start off and I'm going to follow on later after the video.
Oh, welcome, Irene.
Hi, Pauline. Well, good morning.
Obviously, I'm Irene Russell and this is Eric Russell, and we're from Warrington Rotary. We want to give you a brief update on the work against Rise Against Hunger, and for those who are unfamiliar, a brief resume of what it's about. Next slide. It all started in Warrington in August 2016, and for those that are familiar, that's Chris Jones there in the background there, and that's where we packed over 100,000 meals, dried meal packs that went to schools in Kibera in Kenya. Next slide. What are these meal bags that we talk about, you might ask? Well, generally they contain rice, soy, lentils, and a vitamin sachet that actually provides a balanced diet. Each of these bags feed 6 people. 6 people, just remember that one. So generally, when the children come to school, they get fed. If they don't come to school, they don't get fed. So having the meals at school ensures that the children get an education. And we all know that educating children will actually take them out of the cycle of poverty. And our connection to the district is through Diane and Jonathan Miller. Now I know Diane's on today, so it's very good to see her on there. But we've had, you've had 2 very successful meal packs at the King Henry VIII school, King Henry VIII school in Coventry, and so many volunteers, so many connections, and of course you had another one packed, but with COVID we've had to postpone it. We've postponed quite a few of those packs. We had about 5 or 6 packed planned across the country, and of course we've had to postpone due to the COVID restrictions. But we've come a long way since that first meal pack, and now Rise Against Hunger is recognised as a collaborating organisation by Rotary. So I'd like to show you a short video just to remind you. With no sound. Oh, yeah. Well, you couldn't read it.
There should be sound. Thank you for that. There should have been some sound with the video, but fortunately there were subtitles for my Scottish accent, so that did help you to understand what was going on. So
yeah, sorry about that, Eric. I don't know what's happened there.
That's okay. It was all subtitled, which was quite good. I did get some stick because that was because of my Scottish accent. They put subtitles on. They said, I don't believe that. Just actually a few hunger facts, really. And these are actually out of date now. But 821 million people in the world don't get the food that they need to live a healthy life. That's a huge number. Obviously, malnutrition is the largest single contributor towards disease in the world. Mainly in Africa, I mean, 21% of the population in Africa are affected by malnutrition, and a lot of the food that's packed in Europe, actually by Rise Against Hunger, actually goes to sub-Saharan Africa. And the school feeding programs do help to prevent hunger. When we put the food into the schools in Kibera, the number of children going to school doubled because they were getting fed. So basically, they're now getting an education, they can then get a job, they can bring money back to the village, and then take them out of the poverty cycle. Can we do the next slide, please? 66 million primary school children at 10 classes across the world still being hungry, so they can't really concentrate. And 1 in 9 children in the world will go to bed hungry tonight. Another fact that's not on the slide is really that 1 child dies every 6 seconds due to malnutrition. So during our presentation of tennis, 150 children will die when I'm speaking today, and 1,500 from when we logged on this morning till we close at 12 o'clock today. So that's the scale of what we're trying to do. And those figures actually came pre-COVID. So now actually the UN are now saying that another 132 million people may become undernourished. And I saw some figures this week that are saying hunger will actually double because of COVID. Now a lot of the hunger is actually caused by conflict and caused by extreme weather, economic issues. Unfortunately, a lot of the lives that will be saved from COVID will actually be lost to hunger this year, because actually COVID's holding back the flow of food actually getting through to these people as well. And so it's quite difficult for people to actually get food through, because it's the last mile, it's the last little piece to get the food through that's quite difficult. Social distancing, the kids are not going to school at the moment, so it's really quite difficult for them to get fed. Go to the next slide, please. So really, the kids are key to it all, and because they're not going to school, it's quite difficult. So Rise Against Hunger have taken lots of different things that they've actually been doing to try and get over the COVID situation. To the next slide as well, please. These are just some visuals. This is us actually feeding the kids the meals that we packed in Warrington when we went over to Kibera. My next slide as well. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so Rise Against Hunger have actually had a plan, a sort of 3-point plan, what they were going to do because of COVID. The first thing was to get all the meals that we had already packed in the warehouses all over the world out to the countries as fast as we possibly could. So that's actually been done, and the warehouses have been completely empty now for quite a few months. There was also a lot of bulk stock of raw material. There was rice and soya and lentils, vitamin sachets in stock that couldn't be packed because of COVID. Those have actually gone out now to a total of 15 different countries, bulk bags of rice, just to get food into these different sort of localities. So they've sent that out to various countries just as bulk rice or bulk soya, just to get food out to the kids and to the families out there. Step 2, when the food ran out, was really to use cash, and they used the reserves of the charity and the fundraising that's actually been going on to purchase food locally in those countries. So they use local merchants to buy food and put together food packages, food baskets to give to families to meet the basic needs, because basically COVID or not, the kids still need to eat, really. There is still some meal packaging going on. There has been some meal packing going on in the US and some in Europe, but not so much in Europe recently. But they have managed to find a COVID-safe way of packing meals. It's not the sort of meal pack that you would have come to in the school in Coventry. It's the same process, but it's one person packing each meal, one person holding the funnel, putting in the rice and the soy and the lentils, then passing it to a table, then stepping back to let someone else come in and move that back to someone else. So it's a very slow process. It needs a lot of space, and it's taking 5 times longer to pack the same number of meals. So some of the states in the US are actually doing that. In the UK, I've actually looked at this project. Actually, in the UK, with our current restrictions, we couldn't even dream about doing it yet. And with Warrington going into tier 3 this week, we're certainly going to be quite a way off us actually doing any more meal packs at the moment. We do have plans, and they're actually there on the back burner. So whenever we are able to do it, we will actually reinstate some sort of meal packs. And I know that you've got your pack on hold, hopefully until the spring. But exactly when we'll be able to do that, we don't know. But we will keep in touch, and we will try and get things moving for you as soon as we possibly can. I know you have your funding in the district to pack 30,000 meals. ideally, if there's a chance to do any more fundraising between now and next spring to add to that number of meals, that would be absolutely great. But for the moment, we're sitting on hold really until we can move things through. So that's a bit of an update as to where we are with Rise Against Hunger. Thank you, guys.
Eric, would you mind if I bring Diane in now, because she's got a little bit of an update for you.
That'd be great.
Diane?
Yes, hi. Eric, I think Eric was copied in actually on a mail late last night from Rise Against Hunger, saying that if at all possible, they would be happy to support us in May and June. The school had initially said the 5th of June, and then, as you may be aware, they announced a change in the exam dates, which then started the 6th on the Monday. So actually us going in, taking over their hall and dining room the day before exams are due to start. So they're re-looking at the last weekend in May and potentially that weekend in June, perhaps in another part of the school. Eric will know this because I copied him on the email. The King Henrys have actually been fantastic in lockdown, and they are ahead of the game in a lot of respects. And they're particularly keen to make the event happen, and are suggesting that if, with obviously Eric and I are in support and with Rise Against Hunger, if we could perhaps do it in a socially distanced way and perhaps restrict it to the school children and Rotary clubs and obviously any partners, those of you that bring along your air cadets or whatever, rather than a general public event. And as Eric said, things take longer, so spreading it over perhaps the 2 days. But that's, as Eric said, obviously keep in touch, and Jazz, who's taking the project forward for the district, supported by Jonathan Wilding and Amal, will obviously keep you in touch. But we are keen for it to happen, and the school are actually saying it's the only big event that they'd be able to run this year. So if there's any way we can make it happen, and they've been very good at sort of year groups in and out and different shifts and all of that. So I'm sure between the team and Eric and Irene and Rise Against Hunger, if anyone can pull it off, Henrys are certainly the ones to make it happen.
Well, they may well be the template for other events, because we do have some other schools who are actually quite keen to do it. So it might be good to get one under our belt in a safe COVID type manner. Then we could use that template going forward. So we will certainly work with the school and everyone else to kind of give advice of what's happened both in Europe and in the US, so we can share those models and just see, can we make that work in their space?
That's great, Eric, and I'll link you in with John Fitt from the school, and obviously I've already connected you to Jazz and Rise Against Hunger. Was it France? He sent us a link which I'll forward on to the school with some models of how it could be done. So I'll leave it all in your capable hands. I'm sure, as I said, if anyone's going to pull it off, it's going to be you guys with Henrys.
That'd be great. Thank you for your help.
That sounds really good, and it's just positive thinking that COVID is not the end of everything. And I think a lot of clubs have found really innovative ways to help their charities. And so, you know, it's not all closed down. We have worked hard. I think the information that I sent you all on the newsletter for the food banks has proved that. So thank you to everyone that's participated in community work, in work abroad, and for the leaders of these charities. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for coming to talk to us today. Has anybody got any questions for now? And then any more we'll pick up if you put on the chat room. We've got a few minutes now before I hand you over to Tim. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully, we seem to have another couple of people coming in to join us. So has anybody got any questions? Don't be shy, or am I just missing? If you can put one of the little reaction hands up so it's easier to see than you sort of waving like mad. So are you telling me that they've covered every aspect? That's brilliant. John, what would you like to say?
Can I just ask about tools for self-reliance? I've got a toolbox at home with my great-grandfather's tools in it, which I really don't want to throw out, but I'm just wondering, they're so old, are they any good to the charity?
Yes, they're good, John. Tool for Self-Reliance in Kingseat would take them off yourself. You can give them to me and I can make arrangement to deliver them.
Right. Okay, that's great. I think we might look at that in our club as well. Honor's saying yes. I'm sure there's lots of us who've got old tools.
Can I add
A
that
lot of turnout. People, they'll have people banging on your door, Trevor, with donations.
can I just add that in response to what John said, at Southampton, if items come in that are clearly historic, they're sold to raise, because they're probably not usable in Africa, and they're sold to raise the money to pay for the training. You see, at St Chad, we've been donating £200 to £250 a year to the charity, which is what is funding the training of the people to use the various tools in Africa. And the sale of antique items is actually another way of raising the money.
And
can I
Trevor.
just ask you, oh, sorry.
Honor?
Trevor.
Yeah.
I was just going to
Currently-
ask, is there a list of specific tools, or is it any tools?
Well, to be honest, here we take garden tools as well, because they sell garden tools to allotment holders at Barton under Needwood, and that also raises money to pay for the training. So the thing that worries me is I'm under supervision here from a third party, well, a second party in my garage.
Yeah.
I'm refusing to take stuff that is now actually rusty. In the past, I just take anything anybody delivered. There's a difference. If you watch one of these videos from Tools for Self-Reliance, there's a difference between receiving a chisel that has a sort of slightly brown look about it, which can be refurbished, and people bringing you a crate load of spanners, which is what happened last year, and every single one of the spanners was rusted through, and therefore they were totally useless, and a black bin had them, I'm afraid. But you know, there's a limit, but it's quite the refurbishment is. There's a wonderful 10-minute video on their website where you can see how a hammer is refurbished. I was actually gobsmacked by it, to be honest. And you can make an old hammer, you get a new handle. Well, I'm not going into details, but it's quite extraordinary what they can do. And then these things go off to Africa, and they actually make a terrific difference. And I've mentioned it's woodworking, metalworking, bicycles, blacksmithing, and the tailoring the tailoring work is so important, because that is what is creating work for women as it happens. And the women then make stuff, and then they earn an income, and that also, in the same way as the people in Malawi are saying, you actually, by getting an income, you can pay for your children's education and you lift them out of poverty.
Trevor, I was saying earlier, would you be able to speak to Self-Reliance to see if there's a drop-off point for tools with the current restriction, saving us keep them in our garage or in our car boot?
Well, I believe the people at King's Heath are still taking tools. I'm still sending them to Barton under Needwood, so I don't think it's at Southampton. A large container is about to leave for Tanzania now, so the process of delivering tools into Africa is underway. So I assume that everything's fine, but I can find out. But locally, we're collecting and sending them to Barton.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Has anybody else got any questions? If you suddenly wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and think, I wish I'd asked that question, please email me and I will forward it on to the speakers. So don't think once we close down, that's your final chance to ask a question. So let me just check, make sure there's no little yellow hands waving anywhere.
Can I just ask, are they are all the contact details for all the speakers going to be sent round, or where will we find them all together?
We're going to put the recording onto the website, Honor, so I can get those put on there as well. And if you're desperate somebody to, just email me and I'll send them out to you if it's an individual.
Hi, Pauline, just a quickie before you go, it's Juliet. I'm assuming that with these tools, there are supposed to be manual tools, given that they will be going out to remote places. Is that a note for us to think about and remember?
Trevor?
The manual tools.
I'm sorry, Juliet, because I'm only a humble historian. I have no idea what a non-manual tool would be.
I would assume not electrical.
I see. No, in certain circumstances, electrical items are it's all to do with compatibility.
Okay.
If you've got time for this, somebody from Warwick phoned me on Kenilworth phoned me and said they got an electric sewing machine, and I had to find out whether it was compatible, and it was. And then they said, would you collect it? And I said it was environmentally unfriendly of me to drive from here in Lichfield to Kenilworth to collect a sewing machine. They seemed rather surprised by this, but anyway, eventually I agreed that I would take it. It would be brought to me at a Rotary District meeting at the Arden. No, not the Arden, at the school at district meeting. Yeah. Anyway, and it was just like a scene out of something to do with one of these spy things. This person walked to the side of me and said, "Are you Trevor James?" I said, "Yes." And this person walked off, and then I looked down and there was a sewing machine at the side of me. So yeah, I mean, we need to think about being environmentally friendly when we're moving this stuff about. Otherwise, that's why we only send stuff to Barton every so often, because it's only 14-mile round trip, but actually I'm polluting the atmosphere if I go there. So I arrange my trips to Barton on my way to teach at Burton Library, which means I only divert by about a mile on the way of a journey that I would make anyway.
Thank you very much. Hope that sorts you out, Juliet.
Yes,
and
thank
I
you.
can tell you I have taken 3 electric sewing machines to Africa, which are in use, so it does work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else before we say our farewells? I'm not missing anybody. Nobody's going to shout at me if I miss you. I'm just desperately looking to see if there is anybody. Tim, I'm going to hand over to you now to say your goodbyes. Wherever you are.
Frozen.
Timothy.
Was there?
Frozen.
He's
Is
just
he disappeared? Gabrielle, is there anything you want to say while we're waiting for Tim?
Unmute yourself, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle.
I just want to thank everybody, particularly the speakers, because they've been absolutely fantastic. I think the presentations have been wonderful. You know, I wasn't expecting everybody to give an actual presentation. I thought some people just might talk for the 10 minutes and that's it. So everybody's put an awful lot of effort into this, and it's been superb. You never know how these audio things are going to work out, and we haven't had too many hiccups. I think thanks to Pauline, she's done a marvelous job in you know, sorting this out. There is going to be another district event on the 28th of November, and it's going to be an environmental seminar with a few speakers. There aren't going to be as many speakers as today. We're just going to have 3 speakers, but they're going to do longer presentations. So watch that space. This information will be coming out in the next week or so. So thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you've enjoyed your morning and you've thought that it was well worth giving up a Saturday morning. Thank you.
Tim, would you like to come in now? Thanks, Gabrielle.
Sorry about that. Yes, lost internet connection then for a minute.
I think we've heard from some great charities today, including my own international one from Jane Walker. A big thank you to all of those that's already been said. I think it's also fair to say that charities are going to be suffering through COVID, and that's going to obviously be the same for our clubs. And I'd like to say a big thank you to the clubs for the work that they are doing at the moment. I hear some great stories around the district. So a big thank you. Thank you for sharing the time this morning to show Gabrielle that we do care about international charities, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all our speakers, and thank you to everybody that's put work into it. And thank you for turning up, because without you, we'd have all been standing here talking to ourselves. Is there any quick questions before we go? No. I will say thank you, goodbye, and I really appreciate you turning up.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Tim, you still there? Tim?
He's still there. I think he's on mute. Anyway, John,
Yes.
I'm going now. So you take care. Have a good weekend.
No, Denzel, you should stay for at least 10 minutes to make up for all the times you've been late.
Yeah, I can do that. If anything else interesting to say. Let's see if Tim coming back. Let's see. Yes, he's there.
I think we've just lost him.
Has he gone?
I don't know where he's gone.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll remove you. I'm going to remove you, Denzel.
Okay then. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
See you, Tim.
Bye. Right, we're still here. That went all right. Oh, you've froze. Is it your internet? I'm speaking.
Hello.
You're freezing up. I don't know what the problem is. Must be your internet.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll ring you. I just want to ask you a couple of things. I'll give you a ring.
Okay.